when you consider our performance in Europe, it can't get any worse this year.
Well, our main problem last season was, if you think about it, what was it, 12 points or something like that? 12, or when Gio left and Beale came in, we were sitting at whatever was it, 9 to 12 points or something like that.
Around about that. So he had a mountain to climb coming in the door, and I think everybody had resigned themselves to the fact that the league was gone, but we wanted to see an improvement, which near the end of the season, our results against Celtic, I think clearly showed that we had improved. You know?
Aye, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't have. Nobody really expected us to. Well, there was a wee bit of the support that wanted us to close the gap, but I think, like, deep down, we all believed that it was never going to happen.
No.
And the thing I wanted to see was that if Beale could do anything with the team that we already had, the team that, well, in my opinion, last season under Gio kind of let us down.
Aye. Just talking about that in terms of where it all broke apart last season, I think, honestly, our performance in Europe really just annihilated the confidence of the players. To go for that high the previous season and being Europa League finalists under Gio, it just seemed to fall apart when we come up against the better oppositions in the Champions League. And honestly, from that point onward, it just seemed to spiral out of control.
Well, the thing is, when we were in Europe, I don't know why, but something that we took from there that I think we never brought into the next season was, in Europe we played, like, I thought we played phenomenal, like, counter-attacking football. Like, we weren't defensive, but it was like a kind of old-fashioned 90s style of football where we'd sit back and our playing out for the back was good. Obviously Lundstrom played a massive part in that. He was probably, even for that half season, was unbelievable. He was flying into tackles, crunching into tackles. He seemed to be all over the park. He seemed to be, every time he got the ball, he was wanting to play forward. But as soon as that new season kind of started, I think Gio's tactics were kind of timid in a way. It was, at times I struggled to figure out, like, what shape was, or what style of football, what our identity was. We didn't really have one. You're looking at games going, you'd maybe start, I mean, notoriously we were terrible, like every single game, like last season, it was just a terrible start to the game. It took us so long to get into the game, and then eventually at half time, whatever it was a team talk or whatever, we started the second half all guns blazing. And towards the end of the season, again, we're kind of been shaky in games, we were dropping points, but I think that played a massive part in the downfall in Europe last season as well, because there's not one Rangers fan that could turn around and say to me they didn't believe when we got the fixtures for the Champions League released that we, having came for a European run like we did, with the likes of Dortmund, I mean, they're on par with the likes of Napoli and Liverpool. They're like Europe's elite.
And also, was it Ajax? We did we? Oh no, we got Ajax in the group stage. Who was it? Who was our final qualifier against? It was against a decent
PSV Eindhoven. Was
it PSV? I think it was PSV, who were a decent side.
They were a decent team.
Did we play them over 2 legs?
I would have been.
Aye. And I'm sure the first result set us up to go back to Ibrox, I'm sure. And get something out of the tie. Again, it was up in the air. It wasn't a guarantee, it wasn't a certainty, but I think when we managed to get that result over both legs, regardless, and get through and actually be a Champions League side, I think the fans expected a lot more. And then to come out of that Champions League run having the worst performance in Champions League history was a tough one to swallow. I think to carry that about as a player into the whole rest of the season was really difficult. But touching on another point as well, there was, and we see it this year with the 8 new signings, 8 or 9 new signings, a complete revamp, a new era. There was so much deadwood we were carrying last season. I mean, Morelos hardly kicked a ball, Ryan Kent hardly kicked a ball. There was just too many of our big players never showed up at all. And we've seen that. You just can't have that, especially with your Kent and Morelos.
Well, it was all, the only thing last season, I mean, well, defence was alright. There's still obviously problems. We always had problems with the two kind of like wing backs with Tavernier, who, I mean, he's probably one of my most key players going forward.
If it wasn't for him, we would have been struggling with the goal front, which is obviously going to be a problem.
Aye.
When your right back is scoring the most goals out of your whole team, alright, that's great, we've got a high scoring right back, but we can't be relying on a right back to be pulling us through games. You know what I mean?
When you look at it for the other side, I've never rated Barisic, and Yilmaz, again, I just don't think he's had enough time to settle. He's never had a run of games. He's never had time to like settle into the team and put what he's maybe learning and training into practice. You've always seen like wee flashes of him if Barisic is coming off, but one of our main problems has always been the opposition, whether it's in Europe or, I mean, domestically. You're always going to have teams that are trying to sit behind the ball, but every single time they'd get the ball, like an easy, the low hanging fruit is to put it out towards like Barisic's wing basically, and have a player that's kind of nippy that can get a yard on Barisic, because I think Barisic is a player that going forward as well but is phenomenal. Like when he gets that, when he pings across into the box, like some of them are unbelievable, but again it seems to me like as time goes on, it's maybe when he first joined and he was in his prime with us, you maybe get 6 out of 10 crosses were unbelievable, but it's starting to become less and less. Maybe. Do you know what? I think that's
really what caused a lot of problems for us. So our previous European run, I think what you were talking about with the counter-attacking football, using the two full-backs, I mean, one thing you can't take away from Tav or Barisic is their ability to put an exquisite ball into the box, and it really, really helped us in Europe with that counter-attacking threat that they two posed in the wings. But Barisic, in terms of the amount of mistakes he made, you've seen it in a couple of the Old Firm games last year, especially at the back post, where he was leaving men at the back post, and I can remember, I think it was Abada, a number of times in the Old Firms managed to just peel away from Barisic. He was sleeping, lost his man.
A lot of the time,
he wasn't doing it in a defensive front.
He's so far off of players. Like, he gives players so much space that if an opposition winger gets the ball, he's got so much time to think about like how he's got to get past Barisic. And I just don't. You can't do that, and that's how it takes it to the way Lundstrom was playing during the European run, because every time somebody in his area, a player in his area got the ball, he was flying him a crunching tackle, he was on top of them within a split second. And I think that in terms of nowadays, like a fullback kind of needs to have that, because a lot of teams, especially with us, a lot of teams domestically are going to be pinging balls out for the back. As soon as you get the ball, they're going to ping it out like far and wide and try and set themselves up for a counter attack, which means Barisic is going to be whoever he's marking or whoever his man is, he needs to be on him right away, no giving him a touch of the ball. A lot in the same way as the way opposition players played with Morelos, because Morelos can turn a player quite easy when he was in his prime here.
When he was the two stone or
but they were basically on him, so every time the ball came to Morelos, he was fighting with a player, sometimes maybe even two players. And I think that is such an effective way to shut an attack down, especially if you're a weird team playing against Rangers, or if weird teams are going to play like that against us, then you need to have a fullback that can cover his wing and no give players space when they're trying to hit us in the counter.
Well, here's an interesting thing that I hadn't really considered, but it was both for a Rangers point of view and a Celtic point of view last season in Europe. Both teams, I would say, almost for a Celtic point of view, it was probably better to watch because they were playing this really, really intensely attacking style. For us, we just seemed a bit disjointed. But I think what caught both teams out, to be honest, is this lack of respect that the big European teams are going to have for Rangers and Celtic in the European stage. For just a Rangers point of view, right, you think about it, and this really made us suffer in the league last season as well, because we only really had the attacking threats from Tav, from Barisic, down the wings and we were crossing balls into the box, right? But eventually your Kilmarnocks, your Livingstons, they understood that we were going to show up. That's what we were going to do. They were going to sit 10 men behind the box, probably play 5 at the back and have 3 6-foot centre backs in the middle of the box, and we're just pinging balls in all day.
Yep.
And it seemed that when that didn't work, we would eventually get to like 75, 80 minutes and all of a sudden realise, we're drawing nothing each still. Or we're drawing 1 each. The game's no one. What are we going to do? And then all of a sudden we leave it too late. We would start to look to start going through the middle and stuff, but it was too late, and we never had the clear playmakers that could do that for us.
Exactly, there was no playmakers. Many times last season, did we see a starting lineup and we'd see like Jack, he'd probably play that kind of box to box, but you'd see Kamara and Lundstrom getting played. And to me, Kamara, I don't know what happened. He never downed tools, but you could see he wasn't the same player as he was when he was in his prime for us. And Lundstrom obviously fell off after the Europa run as well. So we're sitting there with 2 players that like to sit back. Again, Kamara likes to recycle the ball, take it in, pass it out. But when you paired him with Lundstrom, it just every time we were building up attack, it made its way into the midfield and the game started to become so disjointed and slow.
Do you think it was maybe, from a psychological point of view, like a crash back down to earth? It's like 1 minute you're in the Europa League final and then to lose that in the manner that we did after, I mean, an amazing run. Do you think that just saps so much psychologically and physically for the players?
I think it maybe, but you can't do that at Rangers.
No, you can't just show up to the new season and still be sulking and feeling sorry for yourself.
But that's what I like about going into the signings that we've made just now. So we've got Cantwell, Raskin and Dowell I've really liked. I thought he was Raskin's brilliant, Cantwell's brilliant. But Dowell was the one that surprised me the most, because you don't really know what you were going to get when Dowell came in.
I had no idea.
Didn't really know much about him, but it seems that he's kind of using Dowell to obviously help play through the middle, but I've seen, how many times did you see in the pre-season games Dowell help him out Barisic, not only defensively, but he was maybe coming out wider and he's putting balls into the box that even prime Barisic would probably ping in. Some of his balls into the box have been outstanding.
He's a big boy as well, you know what I mean? He gets about and he seems to be a threat for... He could be a threat for set pieces, he could be a threat on the counter, but like you say, he can be there to cover for Barisic or cover for Yilmaz, or just... And this is a thing as well that I've noticed in the pre-season especially, I think against Hamburg in particular, is the rotation of the... And it used to just be that the front three would rotate. But honestly, now it seems that I can't put a player in a position. Unless they're in the back four. The back four is the back four, fair enough. But anything for the midfield to the forwards just seems to be this constant rotation. And it's good when it works, but unfortunately, the pre-season, it's not panned out the way we would have wanted it to pan out, I don't think. And you might say, it's fine, we've got a lot of new players, they need to gel, they're being pushed to their limits, physically, during pre-season, they're doing 2 sessions a day, they're maybe playing 3 games a week, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday or something like that, which is absolutely fair enough, right? But time is of the essence. I mean, we've got the first game of the season kicking off against Kilmarnock on Saturday. It's like, the players better be gelled, they better be recovered, they better be ready to go. You know what I mean? We've just brought in this new striker, Danilo, who he come on for the last 15 minutes against Hoffenheim at the weekend, I'm sure. But these players, they need to be ready to go. There's no excuses now, because the fans are not going to turn up and say, if we don't get results in the first 3 or 4 games, one of them which is an old firm, the fans aren't going to be like, they've not had time to gel. Beale was brought in at the latter half of last season, or halfway through the season. He's got the players he wants. It's time to go. You know what I mean? There's no messing about now.
Well, that's the thing for last season as well is, I mean, defensively we were alright. The odd mistake let us down last season. It was always an individual. Most of the time it was an individual error. But our problem for then compared to now is there was a clear problem with the attacking options. When you had Sakala, you had Morelos, you had Kent. See, when either one of them out of the three was off it slightly, all our attacking options pretty much vanished, and we ran out of ideas so quickly because Kent was off the boil all last season. Morelos obviously looked as if
he chucked it. He completely chucked it. His head was not in the game.
And Sakala, I mean, he's just recently been told that he's not got a future at Rangers. The annoying thing about Sakala is I've never seen a player at Rangers who, when he first picks up the ball, he explodes into space. He's got bags of pace, and during that phase of play where he's got the ball, you think to yourself, something's got to happen here. And then he'd maybe skin one player, come past one player, and then after that final product was never there.
Look, see if you could take Sakala's work ethic and having put it in Ryan Kent last season. That would have made such a difference. Or vice versa, take Ryan Kent's technical ability and put it in Sakala's body, because that's one thing Sakala always gives. I mean, he always gives 100%. His attitude seems to be great, but from a technical point of view,
it's no standard.
He's got the pace, right, but he just doesn't have the finished product. And again, when you're bringing players in, unless they're a very young player, like think about Tillman last season, who was a pretty key player for us, when he didn't have the finished product, or he made some mistakes, or there was games, particularly in the Old Firm games, where he just kind of went missing, you're like, alright, he's a young player, he's still in the stages of development, but when you're coming to sign for Rangers, you can't afford to have too many of these players who you can say, they're young players, they're developing, because we need to get results. We need to get them now. You know what I mean? You know what it's like. There wasn't much in it in the way of points last season. A game here or there. Maybe we drew one too many games, and that's what let Celtic almost basically run away with the league in the end of it.
Well, even previously, any Rangers team that always set out to, it'd be a disappointment if teams like Livingston. I know the standard of the league's had a bit of a step up, but for Rangers and Celtic took advantage of that last year, where they went out to batter teams. They didn't just go out to beat teams. No. They went out to batter teams, and that's what, as a Rangers fan, you were always used to. You used to go out.
We never had that cutting edge last season, mate. There was too many times where we're comfortable when teams are sitting 10 men behind the ball. We're comfortable to have 75% possession, no kick from left back to right back. We've got the ball. Fair enough, but fuck me, it was boring to watch at times, you know what I mean? You're sitting there and you're like, we're just doing the same thing over and over again, getting any result for it.
Well, that's what I liked for one of the games I preferred. Well, the game I preferred the most at the pre-season games was probably the Newcastle game, because, and I don't know if it was just because it was a bit of a surprise about this kind of new way we were constantly rotating and being a bit unpredictable, and obviously we get Cantwell in the middle who can link up play brilliant, and I think players that have the confidence like him to try, if you've got a man marking you try that wee flick through the middle of the centre backs, let somebody run onto it, and we've got Sima there who's got bags of pace, and I think even looking at what people were saying about Sima at the start, I thought it was a bit harsh, because I think during the Newcastle game we were basically picking the ball up, we were playing quite well, but a lot of the time we still had that kind of disjointed midfield to attack. In the midfield to attack, it was still a wee bit disjointed, so a lot of the time you were seeing Sima try to receive a ball at chest height and bring it down, and it's a lot harder to play like that as a striker, because if you get it to feet, like he's got ability, he could probably show his technical ability to get past the player, turn a player the way Morelos used to do. But when you play a ball forward, a lot of the balls getting played forward with chest height, so not only do you need to deal with getting the ball under control from the air, bringing it down, but it gives the defender so much time to think about, how am I going to cover this if he tries to turn me, how am I going to...
Morelos could do that, because Morelos was a number 9 through and through, you know what I mean?
And his strength was unbelievable.
One of the best, that's exactly what I was about to say, like one of the best strikers we've ever hit, a bit like Big Jelavic, you know what I mean? Big Jelavic in the past, he was amazing at holding the ball up, amazing at using his body. Morelos had that in abundance as well, but when you're playing, and it almost resembles last season as well, because when we're playing that front three and the rotating front three, you can't afford to then switch it up and go long and end up having Ryan Kent as your number 9.
Aye.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what happened a few times in the Newcastle game with Sima, is he ended up being like a lone striker, and I don't think he is he's not a centre forward, he's not a striker. I'm sure he's a winger, to be honest with you.
If you want to play high balls forward or out to the wing, you need to have players. You need to have the front three like no in a rotation. You need to have them doing their job, because if you're playing a ball forward to the like say Amarelos, or even take Sima now, if you've got to play balls forward, he needs to be used to his job in the middle of the park when he receives the ball to make something happen for the centre of the pitch. There's no point. I don't think there's any point in doing all this rotation for the like say. I mean, Barisic doesn't do this. But like if you're going to play a ball forward, having the like say if Dow went out wide to rotate into the middle, that's not his like job to.
Here's one for you, right? The state of modern football is the positions are so versatile now.
Aye.
You know what I mean? You're playing a 4-3-3, but everybody's everywhere.
Aye.
What is your thoughts? Because in terms of starting lineup going into the new season, I'm intrigued to see who we put out against Kilmarnock.
Yeah.
And something else I would like to say about that is it's going to be a bit of a shock for the players, I think, as well, because the pre-season friendlies are not going to resemble this game in any manner whatsoever, because you know what's going to happen when we go up to Killie. They're going to sit men behind the ball, and it's like, right, how good are you at breaking down a 10-men wall in front of the goal? But back to my original point, what I was going to say, what is your thoughts on switching to this 4-3-3, but it's almost like a 4-3-1-2, where two new strikers, it's either going to be Lammers and Dessers, or it's going to be, well, what I'm thinking, Danilo, he is a number 9, number 10, so you could have Lammers and Dessers as a front two, which we've not seen at Rangers for so long. And you think about it, right, when people are playing 10 men behind the ball, like, why not just have 2 strikers in the park? Well, we never done that enough last season with having Morelos in the park and maybe just throwing Kolak on. Whenever Kolak come on, Morelos would come off. But what is a Rangers team going to be like when we have 2 goal scorers up front? You know what I mean?
That's the thing as well. I think the only way you can break, well, in the Scottish Premiership especially, when we're sitting against really organised defences, the only way we can play for that is having massive rotation, because if you've got everybody only doing their job in their position, there's only a certain amount of ideas and patterns of play you can do within that. But if you've got the likes of midfielders coming out, not only it's harder to mark if Dow's coming to the outside or Raskin plays much higher up, Cantwell drops back, you're causing, there needs to be an element of chaos in there. And if you're thinking for the likes of, if you think, oh, maybe we'll drop, like say, Dessers back in and we'll put Cantwell on maybe the back two, like this is just for an example, then you need to have that ability to go, oh, this defender's got a weakness at X, we've got X player in the midfield, let's try and make that his man, because he can take advantage of that kind of weakness. I think like that's got to be massive for a season, because all we need to do is disrupt defences.
Do you know one thing I'm actually looking forward to, and touching on last season as well, is when things weren't going our way, we never had anything there that could change it. You know what I mean?
That's where the rotation comes in, well, because you could change it infinite amount of times.
But I'm going through my heat here and I'm thinking, what would be never mind the defence is going to be pretty static. Alright, Goldson might not make the start of the season. I don't know what the situation is with Goldson at the moment. But, you know, the interesting position for me defensively is who he starts with at left back. I mean, personally, I would go with Yilmaz.
I know, and a lot of folk could be up in the air now because of Yilmaz's performance against Hoffenheim. But to be honest, in my opinion, I thought the left back position was going to be one of the key positions that we were looking to add to, and I know having 3 left backs
he cost us a good couple of million, you know what I mean? He should be getting to a point now where he's fighting to get in and make that his position.
Well, the fact that Barisic has been able to like stay in the team with the performances he's had. I mean, I'm not saying he was the worst player in the team. Like, it's not like he's down tools or anything like that. He still tries his heart out. But I just, with the mistakes, the individual mistakes that Barisic has made this season and last season, Yilmaz should probably by now be pushing, trying to phase out Barisic.
In terms of how I would prefer Rangers to play stylistically, okay, there's something that I favour Yilmaz over Barisic. There's a reason, because what I've noticed with Yilmaz is that he can get up the line, he can do the overlaps, he can get wide, he can go to the byline and play balls in the box. But I've also noticed that he's no too shy about making that run up the line and also using the pass to come more central to hit the strikers. And I think if you're playing with the two strikers and maybe the attacking midfielder, I think it's very underutilised for us. I think we need to have something other than just going down the line and crossing it in or down the line and cutting it back. We need to, and I think we're utilising the likes of Raskin and Cantwell, these players that are more creative, more comfortable playing through the middle. You know, I think especially when teams sit so many people behind the ball and just wait for you to cross it in and get the big centre backs to header it away, I think we need to use something that's more central. We need to be comfortable and moving it in and about the final third. You know?
I mean, that's how, going on to the European aspect of pre-season, because that kind of class qualifiers is it's still even though it's a massively important game, it's still a kind of pre-season type thing. And the thing that I do worry about is the fact that because it's such a fresh attack, because we've brought that many players in again, you're worried about that gelling. I mean, we've still got Cifuentes to come in, who's apparently agreed a deal and stuff like that. We've got Danilo just been brought in. They're two players that are probably tipped to be absolutely key for us through the season, with what people have been talking about and reports that have come in and what we've read about the two players coming in. Them coming in so late on, and I know LAFC had games to play, and out of respect to LAFC we wanted to hold off the signing, but with two key players coming in that late, it's going to be, it makes it like tougher to be confident for those European qualifiers going in. I know we're getting...
Well, I mean, your biggest signing's Danilo, you know what I mean? He cost us £6 million. He's our biggest signing by far. There's clearly a reason it cost us that much money, and there's clearly a reason that Michael Beale's had his eye on him for so long. And understandably, he has had a pre-season with his previous squad, Feyenoord, you know. But again, it's you always feel like managers don't like to just get a player in and put him in regardless of his fitness levels, because there's something there about maybe they just don't know each other, or he doesn't have a clear idea of what Michael Beale wants them to know, because Beale's not been able to explain, look, this is what I want you to do, this is how we play. Hopefully they can just fire that to him rapid, because if you're paying £6 million for a player, I want to be playing against Kilmarnock in the first game of the season. I want to be playing in our first Champions League qualifying game, because I want us to have our best team for the start. You know, there's no time to mess about, because you see what can happen when the European, like, think about how much of a downer the team will start off on if we do not qualify for the Champions League. You know what I mean? Look what happened to us when we got into the Champions League last season, get annihilated, and then look how the rest of the season panned out. Like these, and this is the unfortunate thing about the Champions League qualifiers coming so early in the season. It's that I've seen it before with Rangers. We've not qualified. It frees up that midweek and you're not playing as much game, but it just lingers with you for the rest of the season and puts a bad vibe in the camp.
I think as well, like, you look at our performances when we went on the European, domestic performances when we went the European run. I think looking at that, the team was so so full of confidence, and they looked as if they were
every player
was enjoying every single second of every single game. And like as you said, if we were to get into the Champions League qualifiers and it was still we weren't gelling, the new players come in, weren't quite clued up on the patterns of play that Beale wants to see in an attacking sense. Like, it's so important, because if we don't get through these qualifiers, as soon as you get a taste for the Champions League, that's as a player, that's probably all you want.
Psychologically, it's so powerful. I mean, just getting into that Champions
League. Knowing you're
a
Champions League team.
Knowing you're a Champions League player. I mean, think about, and then again, something that we've no touched on that is so important. The Champions League nights at Ibrox, man.
Aye.
Like, you think how much energy that gives these players, you know what I mean? And see, regardless, if we get into the Champions League, right, we're not expecting that much. No. We're expecting to do better than last season because it's almost impossible to do worse. That's what I'm thinking. But
even still, like a team like Rangers, you want to be going. We've proved that we can defeat like elite European teams like Dortmund. So you want to go in the whole buzz about the Champions League is teams like Rangers, Celtic, all these wee teams that are just edged it into the Champions League. The whole magic of the Champions League is seeing every season what team, like what underdogs manage to David against Goliath almost. As fans, you just love watching that.
To be fair, I'm actually just replaying some of the moments for Europe last. Remember, there was a point where we had Sands and Leon King at centre back. Our squad had almost withered away to nothing at one point. So it's understandable that if you're playing day two at centre back or you're playing makeshift players anywhere in the pitch against teams like Liverpool who can bring £50 million signings on off the bench, you're going to be up against it. What I'm thinking about this season that bodes well is that the strength and depth of the squad is unbelievable. But to be quite honest with you, we're still a bit thin at the back. We've got Dujon Sterling, who was injured and featured for his first time, I think, against Hoffenheim at the weekend. So that's good that we've got back up to Tav. Okay. At centre back, we're playing that young boy Feko, I think his name is.
Don't get me wrong,
who's decent.
He's no looked out of place.
Absolutely not. He's going to be a player, but he's still young. I would much rather have maybe Suter and Goldson in there, obviously.
The thing is, I think Suter and Goldson will probably be a game changer for us, because Goldson, as much as he's took stick in previous seasons, like,
he's been a great player.
If anything last season or this pre-season's proved is that Goldson, rightfully so, needs to start every single game.
Whether he's the best technically or whether he's got a wee mistake here and there, right? So is everybody, but it's the commanding nature of his presence. He orchestrates everything, and you need that because he almost seems to do that better than Tavernier. Now, I'm not saying take the captaincy away from Tavernier, because as much as Tavernier doesn't orchestrate through his vocals and stuff like that, which Goldson does, Tavernier does it through
his energy,
taking the game with stuff in the neck at times, you know what I mean, and pulling out worldies for right back.
See, even if we're sitting back against bigger teams, Tav's would always have been the one, as soon as he gets the ball, to drive forward. That's how it's kind of lopsided, because on the other side, not to shite Barisic too much, but every single time he gets a hold of the ball, it's almost as if his first direction he looks in his back to see, right, where's the safe pass first, and then he'll play the risk, rather than
Tav gets it and boom.
He gets the ball, he goes, right, where's the risky pass first, and then if that's no on, then he'll play it back, whereas the other side, it's almost a flip of that.
Well, the next couple of weeks will tell how maybe the season's going to pan out. I'm excited, I'm looking forward to seeing all the new players in action, just getting back to having football on every Saturday, and here's hoping every Tuesday or every alternating Tuesday and Wednesday. But I'm looking forward to it.
I'm buzzing for it.